Hey there, I am Caitlyn. I'm Martin and Mariana's roommate, and in relation to this channel, I voice my Valentine, and I did participated in the fanfiction Fridays and that kind of stuff. This is gonna be really hard. I asked Martin if I could do a We're Still Here, and I really hope I don't cry. Probably will. I have had a lot of really terrible life happenstances. Like, I know there are tons of people that had way worse than I did, but specifically the month of February, this is why I wanted to do We're Still Here, is because the month, like December to February, I have pretty terrible seasonal affective disorder. So when it gets like gray and gloomy outside, I get really sad. There's a little bit of history attached to it too. So I had depression for about, like severe depression for about 6 years. I think it started when I was like 11 or 12, I think. And then it lasted like very, very heavily until I was about 18. And it was to the point where I wanted to sleep more than be awake, and I just every day was kind of like this gray thing. I wasn't really aware of the fact that I was kind of floating through time. Like I have memories and everything, but I just know that it was a very dark time. I didn't want to look people in the eyes, and I would overeat, and I would not take care of myself. And there were a lot of deaths in my family, and when I was growing up, and there's going to be a lot of like very heavy stuff in this, so if you are not comfortable with that, please don't listen anymore. So I had depression for a really long time, and I started coming out of it when I was about 18. I had a boyfriend for about 2 years in high school, and as soon as I hit college and whatnot, it didn't work out. And shortly after that, one of our good friends overdosed on heroin and did not make it. And that was really hard. No tears. I have nothing against crying, but I just don't want to do it right now. It was 2009, I think. But he OD'd on heroin, and I found out late that night. And I'd never lost a friend like that. Someone who... Nope. Someone who was really close to me. And it just like tore a chunk of me out. I remember driving down the highway and just screaming in the car because I couldn't believe that they were gone, and I didn't know what to do with myself anymore. And until you've lost someone really close to you, you don't understand what kind of weight that is. Damn it, I'm fucking crying. Damn it, damn it, damn it. But that was really, really hard. And I mean, I'd lost family members before. I'd lost people in my relative community to suicide and stuff like that. There's one. So I wasn't unaware of what losing someone felt like, but someone who was so intricately involved in my life, that was really difficult to handle. Especially because, you know, the boyfriend that dumped me at the time, he was part of that friend circle, so it was kind of like I got dumped, and then my friend died, and then I had to be around the person that dumped me for the funeral and all the aftermath, and it was just a really hard time. Pretty shook up for that for a little while. Depression was kind of coming and going. Like, I was starting to find myself a little bit more over time, because when you're like that, the whole world just kind of feels dark. Like you're not really aware of yourself, and you're not really aware of your surroundings. Like, you see trees and flowers and people, but they're just kind of like the color saturation's turned all the way down. Like, you can't appreciate what's in front of you because you can't see it. So some time passed, and I kind of accepted it and moved on a little bit, and then that was in early February, so that happened in 2009. And then about 4 years ago, on Valentine's Day, my grandfather died. And my grandparents were a huge part of my life. Or, I mean, my grandmother still is. We used to visit them several times a year, even though it took us many, many hours to drive and see them. And he was definitely a strong figure in my life. And it was hard to lose someone on, like, a holiday. Losing someone on a holiday is probably the worst because you'll never forget. You'll never forget when you lost them. And, with the tears, it's not that I didn't get to, I'm at least glad that I got to accept that more. I got to visit him a lot in the hospital. We got to have, with the crying, sorry. We got to have a really good talk, and I knew it was gonna be one of the last times that I saw him, and I got to have a one-on-one with him, and that was hard too. It's recording right now. So I've had 2 people die, and then in early February. So my brain kind of just associated February with death and losing people. And then also on Valentine's Day, that was when I introduced someone into my life who, it was like 4 years of some ups and some really low downs. I wasn't in a relationship with them, but they really heavily impacted my life. There are many positive ways that they impacted my life, and many, many negative ways that they impacted my life too. And that's not to say that I was like an angel in this situation. I had my own faults that I brought to the table as well. So overall, February was just like a really, really bad time that reminded me of all the people that I'd lost, and hard times and that kind of thing. So yes, February was a really bad time, and it was a very bad time many times over several years. So from then on, I kind of associated it as this really terrible time, and my brain latched on to the fact that if it is this time of year, you're gonna have just like crippling depression. And it happened. I mean, it happened every time. And even when, you use that power of positivity thing where you're just like, well, I'm just gonna be happy, and I'm gonna make that decision to make things better and smile more and eat healthier and all of that kind of thing, and that just did not work. I got so annoyed when I was really, really like clinically depressed, that people would always tell me, oh, just smile more, just change your diet, just exercise more, that'll make you happy, that's gonna solve everything. And it really doesn't. I mean, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do any of that. I mean, you might get like a tiny bit of a chemical boost somewhere in there, but that's not gonna change the whole spectrum of everything. Like, you're still gonna be smiling for 2 minutes does not solve years worth of sadness and feeling like you're bogged down by your thoughts and not being able to sleep because your mind is thinking about how you should be dead. I was very suicidal during that time. I don't know how I made it out. I tried to commit suicide before. Sorry, Mom, you probably didn't know that. And thankfully I had someone in my life I had several people in my life who told me that I was an idiot. Not that, but that looked out for me and helped me kind of recenter myself. So what I'm getting at, I think, is that life is going to throw a lot of shit at you, and you just have to kind of keep going, because it's not really going to get any easier. It's just that enough time is going to pass that you can look back on it and see the growth that you've had, and work on yourself to make yourself a better person. I wasn't very good at relying on people, and I didn't really want to trust anyone with any information about me, because I knew how hard it was to hear heavy information like that and how it can kind of weigh on someone else. It feels like lifting the weight on yourself is putting it on someone else. And that's not how that works, but it feels that way. So that's at least in my case, that's why I cut myself off from pretty much everyone. And I even did that about 2 years ago before I moved to California. I just kind of shut off. I was working like 19-hour days, and I was in a not great living situation. It was just, there were a lot of factors that made it really hard for me to try and open up to anyone. And so I was like, well, this will just be my burden to bear, and I'll just deal with it. And I tell the story to everybody when I talk about my depression and kind of moving on with it. But during that year that I was having a really terrible time, it was probably actually in February, because it was really cold and dreadful, and I was taking 17 credit hours in college, and I had 2 part-time jobs, and then I was also traveling to conventions at random, working for vendors at random, and I was taking so many studio classes that I had to carry all this equipment with me all the time, and I think I measured it out to be about 50 to 70 pounds. So I was carrying 50 to 70 pounds of equipment, and the bus system where I lived was not perfectly on time, and I didn't want to trust it and be late. So I would walk about 12 hours a week with 70 pounds of equipment on my back. School was like 45-minute walk one way. If there was any inclement weather, and I came from Indiana, so there was, then you were gonna have a bad time. And there was one day that it was just absolutely pouring, and I had like just started my period, so my cramps were at like full capacity, and those are normally very crippling for me. Like, unless I'm on a lot of painkillers, I'm having a really bad day. So I had my period, it was raining outside, and I had to walk home. I had 70 pounds of equipment on me, and I really didn't want to go home because I knew that, you know, my roommates there, we were having some like weird stuff, and I didn't want to return to that tension, and I didn't want to go home because it was also already 7 o'clock, and I did not have any food in the fridge, and I had nothing to really even prepare. So about halfway through my walk, and the rain is of course coming down very dramatically, and I have all this gear, and I just stopped. Like, I just stopped on the sidewalk, and I just took a huge breath, and I was looking around and thinking, you know, who is gonna come get me? Who can pick me up and just take me the rest of the way? And I couldn't ask my roommates because, you know, we were having some weird tension, and my parents lived like too far away. Anyone else that I could ask was too far away I would have to stand there for like 30 or 40 minutes before anyone could come help me finish walking another, you know, 15 minutes or something. I wasn't that far from home at that point. So I just kind of stood there and was like, well, I can either stand here for the rest of time, or I can go back, which is even longer than the distance to home, or I can just make the last few minutes possible. I don't know how else to word that, but every step was absolutely painful at that point because I had cramps, I had gear on me, it was raining, so I was also weighted down by water. It was like the most horrific day I can possibly think of, and every step was absolutely agonizing. And in that very specific moment, I will forever have it branded in my mind that like no one else could force me through that situation, or like help me out, or make it go away. And you know, there were a lot of options I could have taken, but the one that I chose was to keep walking. Every step hurt from there on, but I didn't stop after that point. You know, the moment it probably took me about 5 real minutes of standing in the rain before I could get my legs to function. But once I started walking, I kind of decided that I was going to keep going no matter what, and keep moving forward even when it was really, really hard. And I mean, that's kind of what time does, is you know, life will be very difficult at times, and you can choose to stay still, but time's not going to stop for you. Time's not going to stop for me, it's not going to stop for anybody. And I'm not saying that it's going to make you happier to keep going, because every step home was really, really painful. And my depression still hits. Like, even last night I was up for way too many hours just staring at the ceiling because I couldn't get the weight of all these things off of me. And you just kind of have to keep going until you get to a point where you're not thinking about it anymore. And I'm not saying that's easy or fun or any kind of a good time, because every step is kind of painful sometimes. The times between the highs and the lows are so far apart now. Like, I don't have nearly as many bad days as I used to, and I don't feel that weight on me all the time anymore, and I can open up to people and, you know, adequately articulate my feelings about what's going on in my head, which I didn't used to be able to do. Just being able to move forward and keep going regardless of what's going on is kind of the best and only advice that I can really give. I'm always going to be growing as a person. That's never going to stop. I have to keep walking forward no matter what. Time is going to trudge on whether or not I want it to. The reason I can do that is because I know that things get better. They always do. They always have. It's just hard not to focus on those tough times sometimes. But they always get better. They always do. This last Valentine's Day is probably the worst for me. I hate it the most. Not because I don't have a significant other or anything like that, but just because of all the death and terrible scenarios that have kind of come up specifically on that day or around that day. And this past year I went to dinner with some of my friends, and I had a great day, and it was such a relief. It was so nice to not feel the weight as much. This year I got to smile and laugh with my friends and have a wonderful dinner, and what was going in my mind was, I wish that my friend and my grandfather could see me, because they would be proud of how far I've come since then. Because I know that they wouldn't want me to stay like I was. But I was so happy to just be alive. I don't know how else to word that. I was happy to be alive and happy to be in the present moment. I often lived in the past because of those things, and time went on and on and on, and it's been 8 years, I think, since that first punch in the heart. It took way longer than I wanted it to. Way longer. But time moved on, and I got to heal. It's not ever something that's gonna fully close. I mean, there will be times where you know, your mind kind of latches onto something and rips the scab off, and you're like, oh right, I have all of these really harsh emotions about these things that happened. But they're much easier to manage now, and I can look at them in a different light than I could before. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't give up hope that you know, right now when it's really, really hard and things keep piling on top of each other and making you feel like it's just never gonna stop, because it definitely felt like that for years and years. But it does, and it will, and it doesn't mean every step to better is not going to be painful, but it's totally worth it. It's totally worth sticking it out and taking every step there, because I have a college degree now. I have amazing roommates. I live in California. That seemed impossible to me, coming from a small town in Indiana. And I am not 100%, but I know what I need to do to get myself there. And I guess I have the mental fortitude to get there. And even then, 100% is going to be learning and growing for the rest of my life, which I am 100% happy with. And I'm glad that I can say that with confidence. So, yeah, keep going, even when it seems really dark. It is as bad as it seems, but that doesn't mean it's gonna last forever. It will pass, like a storm, like many, many storms, flooding everything and making everything seem terrible, but it's gonna pass, and things will get better. I can't think of anything else I could possibly say without going on a very long tangent about other sad stories of difficult times and whatnot. So don't give up hope that it's gonna get better, because it will, even though it seems a little impossible at the moment. But just keep walking and know that even if you can't see them, there are people cheering you on. Like, I am cheering you on. I am cheering you on right now. I want you to keep taking those steps forward and work towards the better, because it's so much better once you keep going. And it really feels like your body is gonna break and your mind is gonna break and that you're gonna explode. But you just gotta keep going. And there's so many cheerleaders for you that you're here, everywhere. Like, we're all cheering for you. So just keep going. Even if you can't hear us and you think we're not there, we are. And if nothing else, I am. Please, please keep going. Stay here. That seems a little overdramatic maybe, but that's what came out of my mouth. So I'm saying it. But yeah, okay. Thanks. I guess I'll stop now.